Hello and welcome to the MBYogi podcast, where you'll learn to master the business of yoga. MBYogi is a proud part of the Wander Barn Podcast Network, and I'm your host, Amanda Kingsmith. I'm a 500-hour registered yoga teacher, a yoga business coach, and a total business geek. Here at MBYogi, you'll learn everything you need to know to create a sustainable yoga business by learning from myself and guests from around the world about how they built their yoga businesses, and about how you too can become a successful yoga teacher, studio owner, and much more. All right, let's dive in. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the podcast. I am so excited that you've decided to join me today, and I am just bursting with joy over this new intro that I have created, and I'm really excited to be able to share the other projects that I've been working on with all of you who are out there listening. So thank you so much for all your support with Wander Barn and Matcha Mornings and all of that good stuff. It's super awesome to have that support and to just be able to share all of this stuff that I've been working on for a while. And today we've got another fun episode. Today is going to be a solo episode, and we are going to talk about teaching demos. And so the concept of a teaching demo was something that I had no idea about before I did my first 200-hour training. It wasn't something that I was prepared for in my first training or something that I was told to expect. It was something that just started happening as I started teaching more. And teaching demos are pretty common in the yoga industry, although every situation when it comes to getting a teaching gig is going to be a little bit different. So sometimes you're going to be asked to do a teaching demo, and sometimes you're not going to be asked to do a teaching demo. But the situations where you're most commonly going to be asked to do a teaching demo is usually when you don't know the studio owner and the studio owner is not familiar with you or your teaching style. And teaching demos can be really intimidating, especially if it is your first one. And the first time I did a teaching demo, I remember I was a combination of sweating profusely and terrified about stuttering on my words. And I really want you to learn from that experience. So the first place that I want to start with this is talking a little bit about what that experience was like for me. But before we dive into that, just a quick word from our sponsors. This episode of the podcast is brought to you in part by OfferingTree. When you're a yoga teacher and you're trying to build your digital presence, it can be daunting. First, you might need a website. There are a lot of great tools for building websites like WordPress, Wix, and Squarespace. Then you need a way to email your students. Again, there are tools for that, like MailChimp and Constant Contact. But that's another account to pay for and a password to remember. Then you need a way to schedule and register your students. Again, there are tools for that. But it's another account to create and pay for and another password to remember. Oh wait, how do I integrate my scheduling tool with my website? If you're going crazy, I totally get that. So instead of putting all of this stuff off for another day because it's too daunting, let me tell you about a better way. OfferingTree set out to make creating your digital presence fun, easy, and affordable. With one account, you can create a website in minutes that has your schedule built right in. They also have email marketing tools to collect email addresses, send newsletters, and automated emails to your subscribers. It all works seamlessly together with one account and one subscription. To learn more about what OfferingTree can do for your digital presence, visit offeringtree.com/MBYogi. OfferingTree has been supporting MBYogi for over a year now, and I not only love the product and service that they've created, but I also love the people. I'm a big fan of supporting small businesses because I'm a small business myself. Small businesses supporting other small businesses is probably one of my favorite things ever, and it's really cool when I get to hop on a partner meeting and I get to talk with the co-founders of this product. As well, OfferingTree is providing special pricing for MBYogi listeners, so be sure to head over and visit offeringtree.com/MBYogi to receive your discount. Once again, offeringtree.com/MBYogi. This episode is brought to you by BeYogi. If you are in yoga teacher training, a full-time teacher, or a part-time teacher, BeYogi has the best rated yoga liability insurance to keep you covered in the event an injury happens. Teacher training students can get full coverage for just $25. And for the MBOM audience, they're offering an exclusive deal for $20 off professional coverage. That's just $139 per year if you teach part-time. Go to beyogi.com/MBOM to make sure you get this discount. That is beyogi.com/MBOM. And if you're not in the market for yoga insurance, they also publish 2 articles per week about the business of yoga. I'm on their newsletter because of how great the content is, so I definitely recommend that you subscribe too. If you are a yoga teacher who is uninsured or considering switching providers, I 100% recommend BeYogi. Again, to get the exclusive $20 off MBOM discount, head on over to beyogi.com/MBOM. All right, so before the break for the sponsors, I was talking a little bit about my first teaching demo experience. So I was brand new to the city of Atlanta. I knew nobody at all, and I had Googled a couple of yoga studios. I found out who owned the studio that I was interested in potentially teaching at, and I went to her class and I booked an intro package. I think I paid, $30 for my first month or something of that sort. And after the class, I lingered a little bit, wiping up my mat and putting my stuff together. And on the way out, I was just told her, thank you so much for the class. It was really awesome. And then we started chatting a little bit. She asked me where I was from and what I did and all that sort of stuff. I told her that I was a yoga teacher, and I was like, actually, I'm looking for opportunities to teach. So if you have anything available, I would love for you to let me know. And immediately she said, yes, I would love that. That would be super awesome. I'd love to have you come in and do a teaching demo for me. Let's plan that over the next week or something like that. We planned a class that I could come attend, and then planned for me to stay, 15 to 20 minutes after the class to do my demo. Now, something that I think is really important to note about this experience, I had actually sent this yoga teacher an email previously. So I had reached out, I had introduced myself, I had said I was looking for opportunities, I had included my teaching resume and all that good stuff. I never heard anything back. And within, minutes of chatting with this teacher, I had landed a teaching demo. So if you are looking for yoga teacher gigs, I do really recommend it showing your face, because being in that person's class, having the chance to meet them one-on-one is going to be a much faster approach to actually getting in front of that teacher for the teaching demo. So immediately I come home and I'm like, what the heck is a teaching demo? Of course, I have some ideas in my head, but I don't fully know. And I did a little bit of Google searching, watched some YouTube videos, started learning a bit more about it, and then got to work thinking about how I could showcase myself. And we'll talk a little bit about the tips that I recommend based off of the experiences I've now had and what I've since learned working in the yoga industry. But at that point, I didn't know a lot of the stuff that I know now. And so I went to the class that we had planned, and I stayed after class, and I set my mat up at the front of the room, just like she had prior to me teaching. And basically, I just started teaching, and I walked her through an intro. We did a couple of poses, and within a couple of minutes, she stopped me and she said, okay, great. Like that's good. I didn't even teach for the full 20 minutes. And she said, you seem a little bit nervous. And I immediately was like, yeah, this is the first time I've done this. I am feeling pretty nervous. And she's like, I love your style. You're super sweet. I love, everything you have to offer. She's like, my only concern is that our classes are pretty strong classes and you didn't come across as a super strong teacher. And so I offered to take her through a couple of poses where I could demonstrate my strength in teaching in that way. And, within a couple minutes after that, she said, okay, great. I'd love to get you on the sub list. As it turned out, she messaged me a little bit later that day and said, we've had a last minute cancellation tonight. Can you sub? So honestly, within the day of doing my teaching demo, I was teaching at the studio, and within a couple weeks, I had locked down a regular class, which I taught for pretty much the next year. Following that experience, I felt a lot more confident in all the other teaching demos I was asked to do, and I felt that every time that I did a teaching demo, I was able to not perfect per se, but I was able to improve it quite a bit. I was able to tighten up my delivery. I was able to choose poses really strategically. And through that experience was how I was able to come up with these 4 tips for you. So Let's dive in. Here are my top 4 tips to make sure you crush your teaching demo and you don't have to necessarily experience the same amount of nerves that I experienced. So, the first tip I have for you is to be prepared. Practice, practice, practice. Even if you've been teaching for a number of years and have hours of teaching experience under your belt, you should absolutely practice before your demo. A demo is shorter than a regular class, usually between 10 and 20 minutes, and at any point you may be asked to lead something different or to stop. That's been my experience in a number of different teaching demos that I've done. You should be prepared to teach a variety of poses in a short amount of time, which means that you shouldn't spend the first 5 minutes in a silent meditation, as that certainly doesn't highlight a variety of what you can offer unless you're going to be teaching meditation classes. And the unless there is so key because what you need to look at is what you're going to be teaching. And that's going to be really important. But for example, if you're going to be teaching vinyasa flow classes or you're going to be a well-rounded sub that can offer a ton of different stuff at a studio, you want to set up a strategic sequence to highlight some of the most common poses that you teach and to demonstrate who you are as a teacher. So if you have 20 minutes, you might want to teach the first 5 minutes as how you would intro a class, and then the preparatory or warm-up poses you would do, and then do your next 5 minutes as your standing poses, and then your next 5 minutes as your seated work, and then your final 5 minutes as your shavasana and your closing. And that gives somebody a really good idea of what to expect. And I know it's it's already so hard to fit what you want to fit into, an hour class, much less into 20 minutes. And so sometimes this will be a very, very quick introduction, one set of cat-cow, one sun salutation A, maybe one sun salutation B, choosing one small standing sequence with just a couple of poses. And then, getting them onto the floor, you do maybe one forward fold, one back bend, a 1-minute shavasana, and then, getting them back up and ending the class. So it's going to be very quick and you're not going to have that much time to really teach a lot of stuff, which is why you want to be super strategic with what you want to highlight. And so once you figured out what you want to do with this, you want to practice that again and again and again. And particularly if you're a newer teacher and maybe any of this is feeling really uncomfortable for you, you could always run it by, your best friend or a parent or a roommate or a partner or something like that, just so that you can practice the words and just so you can see how the sequence feels and just get a feel for what you're really putting out there. Next tip, keep it simple. Your teaching demo is about your skills as a teacher, not how proficient you are at, a fancier, more advanced pose like Pincha Mayurasana. You want to teach the more common poses that you would offer in your classes and offer a variety of these poses, like I mentioned before. It's important to move at a reasonable speed and to highlight how you would normally teach in a classroom setting. Quick note on the speed thing. If you're going to be teaching, slow flow classes or restorative classes or yin classes, obviously this is going to look totally different. Your teaching demo is obviously not going to be super quick, although even with restorative, it is going to be quicker, as opposed to having somebody in poses for 10 to 15 minutes and only being able to, do one pose. You might want to just say, in my normal classes, I would have students in these poses for 10 to 15 minutes, but for the sake of time and to showcase a couple different things that I really like in these classes, we're only going to be holding these for 5 minutes. And then maybe you would do, 2 poses plus something to open up and something to close. And you can totally just tell people or tell the teacher or tell the teachers that are watching you how you're shifting it in order to showcase yourself. But the main concept or idea that I want to communicate is that you want to move at a decent speed so that you can highlight how you would normally teach in the classroom setting. So that's really what you're trying to convey here. If you meditate for 5 minutes at the beginning of class, cut it down to 1 minute. If you usually do 5 Surya A's and 5 Surya B's, maybe just offer one of each. If you usually do 3 balance poses, maybe just select one to offer. The point is, keep it simple and make it well-rounded, offering that what clearly demonstrates your offerings as a teacher and how you would teach the average all levels flow. Because in a yoga studio, that's often what a studio owner is looking for. Somebody that they can count on and somebody that can really show up and do a good job teaching a variety of different classes and teach all levels. Tip number 3 is showcase your unique offering. So this may sound like a little bit of an opposite to the last 2 points I brought up, but it's actually not. You have a unique voice as a teacher, and there's definitely space in a 10 or 20 minute teaching demo to highlight that. For example, if you have a unique variation to Surya A or Sun Salutation A, perhaps you might want to highlight that. Or if you enter triangle from a different way, this is a great pose to select to showcase that. Or perhaps you teach a standard flow, but you time your poses to music, or you encourage your students to choose a mantra at the beginning of each class. Highlight that during your teaching demo. If you are really big on theming your classes, of course, create a theme that can work with the poses that you're choosing. Basically, you are just showcasing what you're doing. You're just not doing it for the normal length of time that you would do it. And as teachers, we all teach a little bit differently, and the teaching demo is a time and place to show a studio owner what you do and how what you do is unique to other teachers. So you really want to think about this as a job interview. And when I was putting this episode together and thinking about this topic, I was thinking about how on MBO, we don't always cover necessarily like teaching topics, and this is very much a teaching topic. But the reason why I think this is really important is that as yoga teachers, we really can't thrive in our businesses if we can't get in front of students. It is really key as yoga teachers to be able to teach yoga classes, and this is a huge component of our yoga business, being able to present ourselves in a great way. So we have our resume and then we have our interview, and this is our interview. For a lot of us, and in a lot of cases, this is going to be the make or break for getting a gig. You can be a great person and you can come across really nice, but at the end of the day, a studio owner may not hire you if you can't showcase your skills well, because this is your job interview. And so you really want to crush it. All right, tip number 4. Don't be afraid to ask questions beforehand. Yoga studio owners are yoga teachers too, and they know what it's like to be a teacher and trying to get a job. Pretty much every yoga studio owner I've talked to has been a yoga teacher just like you or me, where they are trying to get jobs. They know exactly what it's like. In other words, they aren't scary demons that you should be afraid of. And they're just people who are trying to make sure that you're a good fit for their studio. So you will be best prepared if you ask a few key questions beforehand, including how long would you like me to teach for? Is there anything that you would like me to highlight in my teaching demo? Will it just be you attending? And when would be best for you to arrange this? So I'm going to repeat those quickly. How long would you like me to teach for? This one's really important. I've been talking about teaching demos being 10 to 20 minutes, but that's a big time difference. Maybe somebody wants you to teach for less than that, or maybe somebody wants you to teach for a little more than that. It's really important that you know so that you can prepare. The preparation phase is going to be really challenging if you don't know how long you're going to be teaching for. Is there anything that you would like me to highlight in my teaching demo? It'd be really good to know if there's anything that they're looking for. If you have a skill set that they're looking for, but you don't highlight it because you don't know they're looking for it, that again could be the difference between, winning and losing a job. And so you want to just be clear on what the expectations are. And they might say, no, I just want you to be yourself. That's more than likely going to be the answer, but it's always good to ask. Will it just be you attending? This one's really important because it can totally throw you off as the teacher if there's other people there. And let me tell you, I've actually done a teaching demo for the entire staff of a yoga studio. And we all know that there's pros and cons to teaching other yoga teachers. It's really nice to have somebody in the room that you know understands the poses, that you don't have to necessarily verbally assist as much as maybe a beginner. But it can also be really intimidating because everyone has their own style, their own way of cueing, their own way of cueing anatomy and the postures and just of teaching in general. And so there can feel like there's a lot of judgment. But one of the teaching demos that I did a number of years ago, I actually attended a staff meeting. And so I was given a time to show up. I showed up and I was their movement break. And so I flowed for 20 to 30 minutes with them. And afterwards, they thanked me and I left. And she said, the studio owner said, I'm going to talk to the teachers that just practice and we'll make a collective decision. And so fortunately for me, it was collectively decided that I could be on the teaching team. But there was definitely some nerves there when, there might be a yoga teacher that's like, hey, I don't like her. I don't think she's good enough. And that can be intimidating, especially when you're new. So it's really good just to make sure that you're very clear on who will be attending and so that you can prepare for that. And then when would be best for you to arrange this? Of course, we are all busy, but one of the things that you want to get clear and decided is when you're going to do the teaching demo. Yoga studio owners are usually super busy. They're juggling a ton of different stuff. And although they need you on their schedule, they need your skill set, they might kind of push that off to the back burner. So when you're having those conversations, just make sure that you can schedule something as soon as possible, get it on the calendar with as little back and forth as possible, and just make sure that you're accommodating to their schedule as much as you can to make it happen. So that concludes the 4 tips. I wanted to actually just bring up one bonus tip. So I guess the bonus 5th tip that unless you're listening to the show, you don't know exists. And this is for people who inevitably are asking, hey, I would love to set up a gig before I arrive in a place. How do I get somebody to actually see that I'm a great teacher without me actually being there? And my tip for this would be to create a teaching demo video. So obviously, yoga teacher resumes are really powerful, and I 100% recommend that you have one. I think that having a video can actually be equally, if not more powerful in terms of demonstrating who you are. Because anyone can write, I'm a 200-hour registered yoga teacher, or I'm a 500-hour registered yoga teacher. What does that actually tell you about me? What does it tell you about my teaching style? Pretty much nothing, because lots of us are 200-hour, well, all of us are 200-hour certified, lots of us are 500-hour certified, yet each of us is unique. So something that can be really awesome is to set up your phone in a studio space or in an apartment space that is clean and well lit, and to just start teaching and put together something that really highlights who you are as a teacher and teach for between 10 to 15 minutes. You can upload it on YouTube as an unlisted or private video, and then you can send the link or attach it to an email when you send off an email. So if you're going to be passing through a city and you want to teach, or you're maybe moving to a new city, or you're looking to go to a new studio, but you're not there yet and you want to get somebody's attention, having that video in the email is going to be super effective to do so, because the paper doesn't really tell somebody a lot about you. They're still going to want to meet you, and likely somebody's still going to want to meet you even if you just send them a video, but there's a better chance that you're going to be able to get their attention and have them understand who you are as a teacher and have them commit to working with you. So if you can, I would definitely recommend making a teaching demo video. The other pros about just doing this, even if you're not going to be traveling or moving, and if you have access to all the studios you want to teach at, is that you can watch that back and actually give yourself feedback. Honestly, one of the best things I have ever done for both my speaking as well as my teaching career have been to actually listen to myself. So I'm super grateful that I edited the majority of my podcast for the majority of the time that I've been making MBO. I have listened to, probably almost as many hours of my own voice as you guys have. I am maybe more critical than you guys are. I have no idea what you think of me talking, but I hear the little things that I do in my voice that are annoying. I hear the words that I say that are annoying. I hear the pauses and the ums. And instead of getting frustrated with myself, I use that as a learning experience. And the same thing has been with videoing myself. I have created tons of YouTube videos just like I would for a teaching demo video. And I've been able to hear the way I teach and see the way I demonstrate and see the way I interact with the camera or how I would with a student. And I'm able to really watch myself and then give myself feedback on the things that I do, hear the things that I say over and over, because we all have those little filler words and those things that we do as teachers. So honestly, making a video of your teaching demo is not a bad idea in the first place. And that can especially be used as your practice if you don't have somebody in your life that you trust to do the practice with. So that is my final bonus tip to you. So I will just quickly review the tips one more time. So first one, be prepared. Second one, keep it simple. Third one, showcase your unique offering. Fourth one, don't be afraid to ask questions beforehand. And the fifth and bonus tip is create a video for your teaching demo. All right, so that pretty much sums everything up that I wanted to cover when it comes to teaching demos. One last point that I want to make from the business side of things that I talk about quite a bit that's super important is punctuality and professionalism. And these things are going to be two huge things from the business side of teaching that are going to be super important. So one is professionalism. If you are getting a yoga teacher's phone number or an email address, making sure that you are taking the lead on responding, answering, sending out questions. I am a big believer in taking action to get the things that we want and not just, sitting in the passenger seat and letting life drive us. So really take the driver's seat. If you have an email address, go home, send an email, attach your resume, attach your video if you have one, organize the time that you want to come in. Be really professional with your response times. Watch your emails diligently for when that email comes through so that you don't miss something. If the teacher says, hey, can you come in later today or tomorrow? You want to be able to be like, yes, I'm so excited, or I can't do that time, but I can do this time. You want to make sure that your level of communication is super professional, because a yoga studio owner is really wanting to know that you are going to be reliable and dependable. And the second thing is punctuality. So please, please, please make sure that you are on time, if not early, for your teaching demo. If you plan to meet after a class and you're not attending the class, make sure that you are outside the yoga studio, waiting in your car, in the lobby, 10 to 15 minutes early. You do not want that yoga studio owner to be waiting for you. I think it's really important to remember that, yes, of course, we are entrepreneurs and solopreneurs and business owners, and we work for ourselves, but we also want these teaching gigs, and we want to respect the time of the people who are giving us a chance. So make sure that you're showing up, you're treating this like a job, you're acting professional in all your interactions, and of course, being on time. So those are my final words of wisdom when it comes to your teaching demo. Go in, be yourself, crush it, do a great job. And for those of you who have made it all the way to the end of this podcast episode, I have a checklist for you on the show notes. So if you head on over to the show notes at mbomyoga.com/teaching demo, you can download the checklist totally for free. And that means that you don't have to worry about all the things that I just told you. You have a checklist that will walk you through everything. It'll help you to prepare your teaching demo, to get ready, and to feel really confident so that you can just go ahead and crush it. So once again, mbomyoga.com/teaching demo to get that and to access all of the show notes. And of course, if you have any questions for me about any of this, make sure you just reach out. info@mbomyoga.com. All right, that's everything for today. I'm so grateful that you decided to listen, and I'll see you next week. Namaste. Thank you so much for tuning in for this episode of the podcast. To find links, notes, resources, and everything mentioned in today and all episodes of the show, you can head on over to mbomyoga.com. You can find the podcast and myself on Facebook and social media at Mastering the Business of Yoga. And I would love for you to join the private Facebook community, Yoga Business Badasses. If you have any questions, comments, or feedback, please make sure you reach out to me at info@mbomyoga.com. And last of all, if you enjoyed this episode of the show, please make sure you hit subscribe and leave a review for the podcast. It would mean the world. Thanks so much for listening, and I'll see you next week. Namaste.